Hi everyone. Okay, so this is a science question for year 5 students from the topic the chapter electricity. So here it says that an investigation is carried out about the brightness of bulbs in 3 parallel circuits. The result of the investigation is recorded in table 2. So they've given you the table where they are showing you the observation for all the 3 bulbs, and then a diagram that shows the parallel circuits, and in the diagram you can notice one significant change, which is the number of dry cells. This one has 1 dry cell, 2 dry cells, and then 3 dry cells. So this is what is changing in each one of the diagram. So when you want to talk about variables like manipulated variables, this is what you are looking for. The number of dry cells are different, and that's how the 3 circuits are different from each other. And one more is brightness of bulbs. So brightness of bulbs is your responding variable, because this is what you're going to look at the end of the experiment. So from all the 3 circuits, circuit X is less bright, circuit Y is bright, and Z is the brightest among all the 3 circuits. So your first question here says, what is the purpose of this investigation? Now, purpose means aim. And in science, we have a very specific way of explaining or writing down the answer for aim, which is to investigate the relationship between the manipulated variable and the responding variable. That is the format of how to answer aim. So most importantly, what you need to know is what is the manipulated variable and what's the responding variable. So the purpose is the aim. Manipulated variable is what's changing, so that's the number of dry cells. Responding variable is what we are observing, which is the brightness of the bulbs. So therefore, when I'm going to answer my aim or my purpose, it's going to be to investigate the relationship between the number of dry cells and the brightness of the bulbs. This is a standard form of writing the aim. But in this experiment, one very important point that has to be included is that these 3 circuits are all in parallel. So I'm going to show you the answer. This is the answer. To investigate the relationship between the number of dry cells in a parallel circuit and the brightness of the bulbs. So I've added this section in a parallel circuit because that's a very important point to emphasize, that this relationship that we are trying to find out between the number of dry cells and the brightness of the bulbs, it's only in this case for parallel circuit. The next question, based on diagram 2.1, which is this diagram over here, give an inference based on the result of the investigation. Now, inference means reason. So why did something happen? So in this case, what happened is we have to look at the result. And result of investigation is our observation, which is the brightness of bulbs. So in this experiment, what we have found is that the brightness of bulbs in circuit X is the least, followed by Y and Z. So why is it that in circuit X the bulbs are not so bright, and why in circuit Z the bulbs are the brightest? What is the reason for this? And so reasons behind any investigation is always related to what you have changed, which is your manipulated variable, right? So manipulated variable is the number of dry cells. So number of dry cells is what has changed the brightness of the bulbs in this circuit, but we cannot say that the brightness of the bulbs changes because the number of circuit changed or the number of dry cells changed. We can't say that, because the number of dry cells in this experiment, the number of dry cells has changed, and it's something that's stated in the diagram. I mean, like we can see it in the diagram, so it's something that's given by the question. So when you want to answer an inference or you want to give a reason behind what has happened, it has to be something that is kind of like a hidden reason, something that the question did not give us clearly. So the reason is behind this number of dry cells. Why is it? This is a question that you have to ask yourself, right? Why is it that when the number of dry cells increases, the brightness of the bulbs increases as well? So we all know that dry cells are the source of electricity for any electrical circuit. So when the dry cells increase in number, the amount of electrical energy that's being supplied to a particular circuit also increases, and that's what increases the brightness of the bulbs. So what we have to write is when the number of dry cells in a circuit increases, and so here I put only in a circuit, I did not put parallel circuit because this is true for any circuit for that matter, right? When you add the number of dry cells in a circuit, then the amount of electrical energy that flows through the circuit will also increase, and this will make the bulbs light up brighter. So I've used this when and then statement to explain my reason. When and then statements can also be used to explain hypothesis and conclusion and relationship questions, but it can also be used to explain reasons if there's an inference in it, right? So this is the reason. The more dry cells there are in a circuit, whether it's series circuit or parallel circuit, doesn't really matter. The brightness of the bulbs will increase because the more dry cells, the more electrical energy. Okay, moving on to the next screen. So here we have variables. So in any science investigation, the first and foremost thing that you should always identify is your variables, right? The manipulated variable, the responding variable, and the constant variable. So I think manipulated variable, we've already established that it is the number of dry cells. So now constant. What is the meaning of constant? Constant is something that does not change. It's always fixed. The values do not differ. So constant variable is something in this experiment that's always the same. That I have three circuits. What is the same in all three circuits? So one thing is that the number of bulbs that we use in the circuit is the same. But this is a parallel circuit, so the number of bulbs doesn't really matter because when you add bulbs to a circuit, the brightness doesn't really change. Sorry, excuse me. The brightness of the bulbs doesn't really change. So in this case, only the dry cells are changing. So this is your manipulated variable. Your constant variable can be the number of bulbs in a circuit, and it can also be the most important thing for this experiment is that all three circuits are parallel circuits, right? All three are in parallel. So that is a constant variable. You can say type of circuit or the number of bulbs. What is the type of connection? So that means type means the type of circuit. So what is the type of circuit or type of connection in all three circuits? So they are all connected in parallel. So we're going to say parallel circuit. That's the type of connection. And the next one is conclusion. So in science, when they ask you to write a conclusion based on this investigation, they are asking you, what have you learned from this experiment? What did this experiment teach you about the brightness of the bulbs when you increase the number of dry cells? So conclusion can be answered using the when and then statement. So you can use when and then statements for conclusions, hypotheses, for relationship questions. So conclusion, in this case, I've used the when and then statement where I say when the number of dry cells in a parallel circuit increases, then the brightness of the bulbs also increases. So this is my conclusion for this experiment. Few things, this sentence may seem very similar to the earlier sentence where I discussed about the inference, but in that sentence I used the when and then statement, but I did not talk about the brightness of the bulbs. Instead, I gave the reason why the bulbs became brighter. So here it's the relationship between the manipulated variable and the responding variable. And also don't forget, you have to include what type of circuit are you investigating, right? So I hope this clearly explains the answers for all the questions here. These questions are all related to science process skills, finding variables, conclusion, aim, and these are standard questions in primary school, so you have to really know your science process skills and methods of how to answer them. Okay, so I really hope this video was useful. Hopefully I'll be posting more videos like this. Bye everyone.